With the entire world watching on Sunday Night Football tonight, the two hottest teams in the entire NFL as far as win streaks go are the Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos, and they're clashing tonight in our home stadium. And for all of us Mile High Maniacs, it is about time. We've got a ton to break down in this video. Is the best player on the Vikings defense actually going to be wearing orange and blue next year? Some huge injury news that came down yesterday. And how do the Broncos face up against this blitz-heavy defense, and what are our keys to victory with that? All of that and so much more, but let's dive in. First off, Broncos country, can you drop in the chats and tell me when was the last time you were this excited about a Broncos team? I know that I can't think about anything else other than the Broncos, and it has been way too long since we have been able to say that that is the case. This is our first time playing a meaningful game this late in the season at home, and I'm here for it, and I know you're all here for it as well. We have the most informed people in the chat. I can't believe how much I'm learning reading all of your comments, and it's been an absolute blast. So big news on the injury front, and I'm actually a little bummed about this, but the big news is that Justin Jefferson, the star wideout for the Minnesota Vikings, has officially been ruled out. And I'm bummed about this because I think this was a great matchup for the Broncos, and I think Pat Surtain would have absolutely had him locked down the entire game. And I already see Vikings fans in my chat and all over the rest of the internet kind of using this and hedging and saying, well, yeah, we don't need him this game. And you see a built-in excuse. But I think right away that having your number one wideout out of the game is a great thing for the Broncos. I think what this frees up is that now the Broncos can really scheme their defense to stop the tight end, Hockenstein, who was drafted by the Lions. And he's a fantastic tight end, but I think now Pat Surtain can shadow him and have him on lockdown. I think Dobbs only really having Hockenstein as an option is a really good thing for the Broncos. But that is a huge piece of news and a huge development. The next huge thing that is over this game is the biggest defensive weapon is the Vikings defensive lineman named Danielle Hunter. It looks like Danielle, but I believe it's pronounced Danielle. And what a lot of people are saying across Broncos country is that one of the big things that this defense is missing, we have an incredible secondary, but what we're missing from our Super Bowl run is we don't have that defensive line pressure that we had when we had Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware and Malik Jackson, and we just had a stud defensive line crew when we made our Super Bowl run. And so a lot of people are saying, well, that's the missing piece, because I think Surtain is certainly better than Aqib Talib. I think Justin Simmons is better than Darian Stewart. And so if you look at this Broncos defense as it is, one of the missing pieces might be an absolute stud on the line like Danielle Hunter. And so it'll be interesting tonight, Broncos country. If you're going to the game, will you make some noise for Danielle Hunter? Will you yell as loud as you can anytime he comes on the field, and let him know that it is a lot more fun to play in the Mile High City than it is in the frozen tundra of Minnesota? And we have a ton of rumors coming out this week that the Broncos are actually the favorites to land him this year in free agency. And I think he really will be an awesome asset to this Broncos defense. I think we have Barrett Browning, who's coming on, who's only been back. This will be his third game back, and in his fourth game back. But in his time back, he's been pressuring like crazy, and Danielle Hunter could be an incredible complement to that defensive front. And a lot of people are saying, like, well, why would Danielle Hunter rather play in Denver than in Minnesota? And I think one of the things that a lot of us are sleeping on is what it's like to have the best owner in sports. And we've got Walmart money, and that actually does make a difference. In a salary cap league, when there are limits on what you can play or pay a player, having a great owner who spares no expense does make a difference. If the money is all the same, wouldn't you rather play in a place where they treat the players well, where you have access to the best facilities, where you have access to the best fans, where there's no expense that is spared? And you've seen that with this Walton Penner group. We see the massive updates to our field this year with the Jumbotron. I haven't had a chance to get to a game yet, but I've heard awesome things about what that new stadium environment kind of looks like. And then the other thing is just already, even just this week, we have swapped out the entire playing surface on our field. And that is something that doesn't happen anywhere else in the NFL. Remember last year, even when we were awful, Walton Penner Group spent $500,000 to replace the field just for our last game. We had one game left in the season, and we replaced the entire field. Then this year, after the Air Force Academy played at Mile High, we replaced the field again. And I think that is just a sign that he is going to spare no expense. And so if you're Danielle Hunter, yeah, go play for the guy who has Walmart money. And if you watched that Thursday night game with the Bengals and the Ravens, you just saw Lamar Jackson come up gimpy, and that field, it was, no one could make a clean cut on it. And that's not going to happen in Denver because we have an owner who cares enough to drop crazy amounts of money to fix the field. And so if you're Danielle Hunter, we've heard all about the new Broncos training facility that's getting built, and you hear rumors about a brand new stadium that might be built, and we have a video coming up on that. But if you're Danielle Hunter and you want to play in Minnesota, who's never won a ring, or you want to play for the 3-time world champion who's been in more Super Bowl appearances than most teams have, it's an absolute no-brainer to me. So make some noise, Broncos country, tonight for Danielle Hunter. Let him know how fun it would be to be in orange and blue. I also just think you look at Sean Payton's defenses with Cam Jordan. He always has a stud on the defensive line, so it could be our missing piece. So then tonight, big game and a crazy matchup in that we are facing a very, very blitz-heavy team. The stats on how much the Vikings do a zero blitz, meaning they have man-to-man on the wide receivers and then everyone else is coming at the quarterback, is pretty concerning, especially because Russel Wilson has played his worst against all-out blitzes. And so that's what we're facing tonight. I feel very good about this because of what I mentioned in our last video, is that we finally have a speedy tight end who can be that pressure release valve for Russ. And so I think that is a great matchup for us. Also, other great matchups for us is one of the worries was that we had some injury concerns on our offensive line that hopefully has kind of calmed down in that Ben Powers, our beast of a lineman, is playing. And so I think that matches up really well. But yeah, if we look here, Russ's QB rating against the blitz is a 78% is his pass rating when he's blitzed. And on over half of all defensive snaps, this Brian Flores defense has come for the quarterback. I think Russ is mobile enough that he can buy himself some time. And if you put Jerry Jeudy, you put Marvin Mims, you put Cortland Sutton, you put our new Nordic tight end in one-on-one coverage, and watch out because the top is going to get blown off and the Broncos are going to be victorious tonight. So Broncos country, I hope you're there for it. We will be here for the post game, and we are on to Cleveland. And Broncos country, it is time to ride.